Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace, family. This is Brother Tavon Sueno, aka the Orthodox Moor. Um, and real quick, I'm just doing a freestyle session, doing my Sunday school slash holy day uh, measure uh, and demonstration. Um, and this week, it's inspired by the fact that a brother of mine and I were trying to attempt to do a dawah amongst some Orthodox Muslims, so-called Orthodox Muslims, on Speaker's Corner in London, which is an area dedicated to free speech and allowing people to demonstrate their beliefs. Um, and these brothers were involved in a dialogue with some people who uh, believe Kemetic science and get into Kemetic science, and uh, they were having a discussion on basically Tawheed and 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 cosmology and how Allah created the universe. Um, and there was in the dawah that the brother and I tried to give to these brother Muslims in Speaker's Corner. We were discussing how the Quran of Mecca talks about how Allah created from in three ayats. It talks about water in one, water in the next, and then the last one speaks about either smoke or vapor or gas. And so we were discussing how uh, you can describe these concepts as ether or or the quintessential element or the aspect of a law that is within everything that allows its animation. And in that dawa, we talked about that ether being the breath of Allah, well, the breath that Allah uh, uh, breathed into Adam, the breath of life, the Ruh al Qudus, the holy breath, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? The Spirit of Allah that He breathes into being. And so, real quick, I want to just take a quick reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, um, as given by Prophet Noah Ali, to expound a little bit or to explain a little bit on this concept of ether and how it relates to why we may have differences in how we see the soul, um, and our relation to Allah. Um, but this is from chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Um, it says, so Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth this human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Hark, now let every creature hear. The plane of the soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essences of life are manifest. And that's the part I want to focus on right there, that last bit. That the plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essences of life are manifest. Um, I want to demonstrate with uh, uh, the brothers on Speaker's Corner again, and not just them, everyone else, and show how Islam and the Kemetic science have a connection to each other, um, and also understanding in prophethood that people of Kemet have their own prophet, and that they have their own connection to the line of prophets via via Allah saying through the Quran of Mecca that He gives a prophet and a messenger to every nation, and that they're ever coming. So our American prophet gave us a literature that helps us understand this concept of ether, this concept of essence that Allah used to create the universe with. Um, so it talks about essences and manifests, right? And so here's the link that we have, right? It's this concept of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve didn't start in the Bible. Adam and Eve didn't start in the Quran. Um, Adam and Eve probably didn't even start in Kemet, but what you can see is a very interesting interpretation of Adam and Eve on the walls of Kemet that would have a very interesting scientific meaning. Um, but before I get into that, I'm also going to paint my illustration with an aspect of the questionnaire that the Prophet Noble Ali gave us. Right? He asks in question 57, who were Adam and Eve? The answer being they are the mothers and the fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. I'll say it again. Who were Adam and Eve? They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. Now, this is interesting because he uses this term in plural, mothers and fathers. He doesn't say mother and father, he says mothers and fathers. So Adam and Eve, even though they're singular in use, they're plural in some way, shape, or form. And in their plural aspect, they are the mothers and they are the fathers of the entire human race, Asiatics and Muslims. What is an Asiatic? I'll get into a Muslim later, but what is an Asiatic? Very simply, um, when you get into the linguistics of this, um, uh, in the Hebrew, the word for woman is Isha. Uh, the word for man is Ish. In the word that the creative aspect of God, Elohim uses, or Allahumma uses to describe man and woman, are Ish and Isha. Uh, in Arabic, they have a very similar term, Aisha, for the woman. For the man, I'm not certain what it is. Um, I often speculate in my mind that it might be something close to Isa, but I gotta find that one out. Um, but so you can hear it, Asiatic, Ishiatic, right? We descend from we all descend. Asiatics just descend from the original people. Asiatic just means like original people in a sense, right? It has another sense, another meaning to it. I'll get into later. But in this just basic concept, it just talks about coming from the original people, the original man, original woman. Um, but that's interesting to note in relation to the name Adam and Eve. Um, so in modern science, and particularly physics and quantum physics, you have this concept of something called atoms and particles, right? You have atomic particles and subatomic particles. Atomic particles are known as basically all physical particulate matter, and it's governed by a certain set of rules, finite set of rules, stuff you can measure and see real easy. Um, then you have subatomic particles. These are known as wave particles. Basically, they're energy. They're the energy that exists within the form, not bound by form. Right? That like the laws that govern the subatomic particles are completely different than the laws that govern atomic particles. So basically, you have on the one hand atoms, and you have waves. atoms being physical particulate matter, waves being the energetic non-physical particulate matter. Um, Now, in Arabic, you have Adam. You have for Adam. You have Hawa for Eve. In Hebrew, you have the same thing, Adam and Hawa, right? And Hawa denotes Eve denotes an utterance of some sort, a declaration of some sort. But when you really get into it, it also denotes some form of a wave. Atom, again, denoting something physical. When you get into the Kemetic science, you find these same principles, right? You have atom, right? Sounds just like atom. Sounds even closer to atom, right? You can see how it all lines up. And then you have the god Hu, HW, same thing as Hawa, right? Hu being the divine utterance, the word of creation. And when you look at it, what is Hu? What is this HW? What does it represent? It represents a breath of some sort. Just make the sound real quick. Hu is an aspect of the holy breath, right? That ether, that substance that Allah uses to create with. And in the section that I read, it says that the plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essences of this life are manifest. So you have an interesting transition in marriage happening. You have this ether from this perfect plane in its exhalation by Allah, in His breath, it starts to slow down. Its momentum slows down a little bit. And as it slows down, the 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 energy begins to take a manifest, a form. So you have a transition from Hawa, from a wave, to an atom. And in the last part it says, and I'll read it together. The perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and the all of love are manifest. It's talking about all this stuff coming together, right? It's talking about it's talking about waves and atoms coming together to make all physical part, all living matter, not just physical, but the spark that's in it. It talks about the combination thereof, the masculine and the feminine, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, making a union, the all of love made manifest. It goes on further to describe this stuff in further detail in this chapter, great detail. Um, but I'm leaving it here for right now. Um, just to further, I just want to just point this out though, just so we can all understand. And my brother Muslims on Speaker's Corner, and everyone else for that matter. Again, doesn't matter. This doesn't matter your religion or creed. Um, this is dawah for everybody, me included. But we're all Asiatics. Everybody walking the face of this planet. Right? We all descend from not just the first physical man and woman, right? But the first energetic man and woman, breathed forth by Allah. And in that breath, having already taken the shahada unto Allah, because Allah says He took shahada to Himself.